Thank you so much. Good afternoon to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to acknowledge the presence of my colleagues from ZIMSEC who have joined virtually also. I am the Executive Director in charge of ICT and Examination Systems Development. Our topic is AI for Assessment, Generating Curriculum-Aligned Questions at Scale. This is a prototype. It's a work in process that we are working on as ZIMSEC. And ZIMSEC is a public assessment body which is involved in the assessment of candidates at end of primary education, ordinary level and advanced levels. As a conversation about AI are continuing world over, we thought of finding ways of tapping into this technology where we can help in terms of managing the costs of public assessment processes. One of the major costs that we incur at ZIMSEC is that of what we call item banking, which is a process that involves generating questions for the examinations that we give to our schools and candidates. We have got over 113 subject components that we assess annually, and with about 1 million students that we do exams for, which are covered in about 8,000 centers, which are schools here in Zimbabwe. Allow me to send an apology on Dr. Chamba, who has been assigned to another engagement at the office. So the prototype that we worked on has got exciting and promising results to support our ongoing research. We are very, very new into this. I was impressed when I heard the prior speakers. I think it was Professor Glenn and the sharing one, answering some of the dilemmas that we have as ZIMSEC in moving from prototype to pilot to production. So when I had them present, I said they've already answered part of what enticed us as ZIMSEC to join this symposium and learn from HPC AI experts around the world. I have got this on the screen. I don't know if some members can scan that and give their insights on how long it takes to create 5 cycles worth of examination items for one subject. I don't know if any can scan their QR code and share their insights. Maybe let me stop and share also the insights from the members. I can see from my screen, some are saying these 2 years, 1 year, 2 months. Okay, the few that I've seen here are talking of days, months, and weeks. And we are saying, how about when we say, when we're using AI, we are now talking of minutes and even seconds. In this prototype, it looks like I'm having a glitch here. My screen is freezing. Okay. So when you let, the conversation is when you let AI generate your exam questions, it can be examination questions in our case as ZIMSEC, or it can be medical diagnostics where AI has been used elsewhere, or financial forecast. Who exactly do you get to trust? Who do you really trust? Is it the code that executes the model? Some say it's a black box. Is it the computer environment that runs it, that you can afford the efficiency to the computer environment, or is it the human who interprets the outputs? At ZIMSEC, we also discovered in this journey that trust is not just about the moral choice, but it's something that we have to embed in our development as developers of solutions as part of our design principles. So in terms of the context and rationale, there is so much happening in education and assessment in particular. Curriculum reviews are taking place world over. And here in Africa, we have got changes that are happening in terms of adoption of competency-based curriculum, continuous assessment, and all these calls for investment in developing education assessment questions that align with the skills that we want the candidates to be assessed on. And these require large quantities and of these done at the shortest possible time in order to meet the demands. Like, for example, we've got a session in June, a session in September, October, and a session in November. And at any point in time, as per policy, we're supposed to be having at least 5 possible different examination copies for each subject of the 114 I mentioned earlier on. On average, a subject would, at ZIMSEC will ideally go for 10 days in an item writing session where subject matter experts are invited into a centralized venue. They get to be paid for their traveling, their accommodation, and also the work that they're going to do. This process poses challenges of cost and also accuracy, inclusivity, and trust in the generation of these questions that are going to be used for assessing the candidates. So based on that now, we are hoping that this prototype of AI use in item generation will help us ease the burden and help us cut down costs. Those are some of the objectives that we had in this research from a pedagogical perspective of the learners and the outcomes of learning. And in terms of compute and trustworthy AI in item generation, those are some of the objectives that we've put in there to develop a trustworthy AI item generation framework for Zimbabwe School Examination Council and to evaluate reliability, efficiency, and oversight in this process, also applying ethical governance and audit controls to ensure accountability. We also want a solution that is scalable and can be used at national level, and we can now say we're benefiting from AI use. We have cut down the subsidy that we require from our government to support our public education, which is a highly subsidized process in my country at the moment. That's part of the theoretical framework that we applied in the development of this prototype, where we're saying the first 2 here are for people in education and assessment, where we're saying assessment should not only test recall, but the learner's ability to apply their knowledge in meaningful ways. So our AI item generation must therefore produce authentic, context-driven questions that reflect real-world problem solving. Then we have got the validity and reliability of the test instruments. Are they valid instruments that we can then vouch for as a nation to say the students that we're producing were tested in using valid and reliable test instruments? We apply also the technology acceptance model and the socio-technical systems theory to say the solution should ideally be user-friendly and be easy to integrate with the current setting that we have, the type of teachers and examiners that we have in terms of their appreciation of technology and ICTs, and how they find the value in this solution, or they'll perceive it as replacing them or bringing in value at national level. In terms of the methodology, we applied from a learning and assessment perspective, Bloom's taxonomy as the input to our AI model, and the subject and the syllabi, which are crafted by our Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. These were input into a generative AI model, which then applied these to produce the different question types based on complexity, multiple choice, essay, structured questions, and case studies. So the idea here was to be able to cut down the process of generation of questions. That is a screenshot of the application, which is a prototype that I'm talking about at the moment. You see on the far left there are the inputs, and the center part of the screen here is where you specify the subject that you're dealing with, and you can go further and split it into different topics within that subject that you're dealing with. This is a localized LLM that we have. Currently is running on a laptop, which is just a 32 gig laptop, and it's not on any server or anything else. Being a prototype, we wanted to first explore and simulate if it's something that can be taken on board. But the idea from the prototype, as you can see, is we're able to generate the questions and be able to edit them if there is need using the human expert. In terms of our results, we took in 2 subjects, which was business studies at advanced level and economics, and then we offer a combined analysis of these 2 subjects. In terms of business studies, the average quality score was 78%, with a clarity rating of 4.1 out of 5, and the accepted without editing is a metric that we defined together with the subject matter expert that I said is away on other duties, where we said, if AI has generated questions for you, are they aligned to the syllabus and the content that the learners went through throughout the years of learning? So if a question needed editing, then it will go through editing and be adopted as a valid question for item banking. So in this case, we had 35% of those questions that went with editing, and 98% of syllabus alignment. That means from all the questions that were generated, how aligned were they to the syllabus? I mentioned earlier on that the inputs were the syllabus, and the model then was able to generate questions based on that. So that is a distribution of the quality scores, which for business studies, they cluster around 70 to 85, as we see on the graph there. And most of the questions, they fell before the exam ready, needing that editing, which was done by the need for the subject matter expert to read. Either it could have been language, it was too complex for the candidates in our context, or it was just away and needed some kind of editing. This variability suggests that the AI's understanding or training data for this particular subject might have been less mature maybe, or it's about the syllabus, but it's work that we're saying needed to be edited, and the items were then adopted into the bank. It may also be speaking even to a syllabi when the syllabi, which is the input, is not matching the, even like to say a particular standard. It may mean that the detail in the syllabus is lacking to assist the prompt engineering to then retrieve and derive questions which are aligned and are ready to be accepted to the item bank. There are so many reasons that could have caused the results that we got. Then the good as is versus edited, I've already spoken about it. 65% of those questions required editing. I'll move on to economics statistics. The average quality score was at 93%, whilst the clarity score was at 4.99 out of 5. The questions were clear and easy to understand. Those that were accepted without editing for economics were 70%, and 30% needed editing, with the syllabus alignment similar to that of business studies at 98%. We can see that the quality scores are clustered around 90 to 95%, which was showing a strong and consistent AI performance in the generation of these questions. The questions that came out for economics were technically accurate and reliable, and were ready for banking. This could have been maybe a reason of more structured or better representation data by the AI in the syllabi of economics, as was perceived by the subject matter expert at ZIMSEC. I'll go on to the comparison of the two, where we are seeing that the average quality for economics higher than that of business studies. Then the editing rate, also economics had less editing of the questions before they were adopted. They were more exam ready. So in our case, we say economics showed stronger performance, while business studies highlight areas that needed more model fine-tuning. And I'll move on to the issues of efficiency. That with AI generation, the questions to get for economics, the 5-year cycle took 12 minutes. It was 260 items needed for economics at A level in 12 minutes. But in our case, as ZIMSEC, we normally have four days to generate these items, and these items are done by 15 examiners, 5 for each of the components in economics, and they'll then go into the next stage now of doing the verification and the moderation of these items until they are banked. So in this case, we're comparing 4 days versus the 12 minutes that we achieved here, which giving us an efficiency of about 160 times faster, which for us as ZIMSEC could yield a significant cost and time savings if we adopted AI generation in item development. But the question is, how efficient is efficient? As this is just a prototype, as I mentioned, run on my laptop. What if we doubled or we tripled even 4 times the compute power, which we're talking about in this HPC AI conversation? Maybe the results could also be what drastically different from what I am presenting at the moment. So we also came up with these from our results findings, some policy implications, where we are saying AI is not going to replace humans, in particular in the case of public assessment, where we are looking at AI in item generation, but it is going to only guide and help us achieve the benefits of efficiency, whilst maintaining transparency, fairness, and curriculum fidelity by using the examiners, subject matter experts who have got an understanding of all aspects to do with learning and assessment. We also are proposing governance frameworks for AI adoption. We are not yet there. There is work in progress in our country, but as ZIMSEC, we are looking forward to that time when we have got these in place, and then we are able to also tap into that and employ AI in our processes. There are issues of ethical use of AI in assessment to guard against biases and the hallucinations, and also things to do with accessibility, privacy concerns, and us maintaining the human oversight. Then it helps us achieve some of those by employing a responsible use of AI in ethics and assessment. The issues of safeguarding fairness and privacy, we'll be looking at role-based access, encryption, audit logs, and scrutinizing the traffic that goes into this model. Earlier, that as we continue this work in progress, and issues of audit logs, accountability, and alignment with and so forth. From an ICT perspective, we are looking at investment in AI from a capacity building of the developers of solutions within ZIMSEC, and also the end users, in our case, the subject matter experts, the teachers, and the examiners that we employ. And we're also looking at investing in compute infrastructure, where we want to integrate AI into our examination workflows during item generation, moderation, banking, and vetting, with a lot of roles in there. That means a lot of users are all logging in at once. I mentioned about 1 million candidates that we assess. If I talk of examiners that we invite in our processes, they go to about 14,000 of examiners that we work with. So obviously we are looking at expanding in terms of what we can take in terms of ICT processing to cover for all these possible end user needs. Then we can have AI as part of our processes. In this particular research, where some of the limitations are subject dependency, we saw it with business studies, which was possibly because it's more discrete savvy to touch on everything, computing, business, and all other subjects around it. There's obviously need for more localized fine-tuning in as much as our model is local, and we used the syllabi, maybe adding more to say the textbooks that we use in Zimbabwe and other content that is localized to our context can also help us in terms of fine-tuning. The need for ethical monitoring of the outputs by the human oversight and capacity building of the subject matter experts in order to roll this out to all the other 113 subjects that I spoke about that we assess for. And I'll not overemphasize on the need for high compute power to process AI requests. The last one here is peculiar to us, where we've got challenges of internet, challenges of power. In terms of scaling up our prototype, these are areas that obviously we need to look at as an institution. And the recommendations from an ICT perspective, those servers, maybe is it the Monarca that was mentioned by Prof. Glenn? Could be one of our solutions to this project that we really are looking forward to having it out in the market and helping us cut costs. And whilst we're talking of national AI assessment policy, we also want to have our own ZIMSEC AI adoption policy and framework, and definitely adopting the hybrid model of AI and human in the loop. When I did this presentation, I put in the slides for discussion, and I'm glad to say since morning I've been listening, and some of the areas have already been answered, and I'm sure it just takes us to have some offline conversations with people like Glenn, like Tobias, before, who presented to help us shape the way and move away from prototype to pilot. I think I have finished my presentation. We have seen that AI will come, despite the challenges that it has, it will come for us with a huge cost saving in our key process, which is item banking. And we are looking forward to rolling this out at national level and cut down the costs that we demand from our government to support public education, and bearing in mind that we are doing responsible AI adoption of human in the loop to avoid endings, some students receiving question papers with irrelevant content that was just generated by AI, passed on to them without any human being overseeing the output of the AI generated question. So as ZIMSEC, we're open to discussions on HPC, AI advisory partnerships that are possible for education, ethics, and compute resources that I mentioned about. Wish to thank all of you for listening to me.
Thank you, Louisa. Wanted to ask if there's any questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was wondering, the benchmark you gave was economic and just efficiency, but I don't think it's really the ideal benchmark or things you have to optimize for in education. Have you more data on how well the quality or how much review it's needed, how much the understanding of the participants is then evaluating, maybe with some double-blind experiment or these kind of things? That will be very interesting and will strengthen the case for it. But just saying you spare some money, I think leaves me a bit not so well.
Thank you for that question. It's clear. So like I mentioned, this is a first version of a prototype in its very infancy to explore an opportunity. Yet, if the main goal is cost saving, but we're also saying we're not going to override the aspects of quality. Part of the ongoing research will be the pre-test. The pre-tests us taking the generated questions that have gone through the subject matter experts, they have to go to the schools, to the candidates, to experience that kind of an exam, and more analysis be done before we even get to getting this on the live platform. The challenges and the constraints that we have faced at the moment are more on exposing and scaling up this prototype to get to the 114 subject matter experts within ZIMSEC before we can even say we're now going out to the public. Otherwise, the quality of assessment is at the heart of ZIMSEC, and there is no way we're intending to just look at costs and compromise the quality in terms of item generation. So it's a work in progress, and yes, the ultimate is quality assessments, quality questions, but tapping into the efficiency that comes with AI.